It's John McAteer and Eamon McFadden with this week's podcast at the Tirconaill Tribune. This week 42 of the year, Eamon, would you believe that?
Cheapers, John, it's going to be...
But both feels like it and looks like it.
It's getting into that time of year, alright?
Yeah, it's getting into that time of the year. That's enough about the weather because it isn't going anywhere in the near future.
4 seasons.
We're looking at a lot of things this week. Today we have the children of Donegal, the Micah protest in Dublin. 50 children from all over the county made the trip to Dublin. Very, very successful. I was just listening to them there on the social media, chanting for Neil Martin to come out and meet them. And inside in the Dáil, Neil was checking to see was that invitation in his diary. Unfortunately, it wasn't in his diary, so therefore he wasn't coming out to meet them. I just thought to myself, he had to know that was going on. Somebody should have informed him, and he should have been out there.
Yeah.
Because the issue at the moment is not going away. There's going to be other protests, and I heard this being debated much earlier on today. And the debate was around about should children be involved in these kind of protests at their age. I mean, they're from 7 years upwards. My simple attitude to that there is these are the children of the Micah generation. They have been born and grown up and have lived with the Micah catastrophe in their midst. So there's no reason that they shouldn't be on the road with their protest.
Absolutely.
And they got a very big reception in Dublin. The media was all there. It's all over the media at the moment. And fair play to them. And Paddy Diver was there, of course, himself, to make sure that the protocols were observed as Paddy only can. A big day out for them. Bus loads of them, big bus load of them. At least one bus load. I'm sure there's plenty of parents went up as well. So that was a very successful run out. Paddy Diver's getting a huge amount of coverage at the moment. The Sunday Business Post done a 3-page feature with him last weekend. And of course the question that has been asked at the moment whilst we wait for Darragh O'Brien to bring forward this new legislation in the Dáil is, will the Micah Action Group field their own candidate in the local elections?
That's the one.
He fielded that one very well without answering it directly. He just left it hanging in the air, and I wouldn't rule out that possibility. I might not be encouraging it, given that it's an issue that's probably bigger than politics. But then again, on the other hand, it may, because there's been so much of a political failure around it for the past 10 years, it may take a political candidate, and Donegal has a good record of one-issue candidates.
Yeah.
But then you could say, Micah is probably not a one-issue candidate in that it affects the homes, the families. I mean, we'll come to a lead story that we have, which is Micah, a nightmare for Tirconaill family, and there's a whole new dimension into that there. But we'll just move on to that from that Micah thing because we're returning to that later on. The opening up of the nightclubs and the hospitality sector and all that, are you all geared up for that? And have you got your dicky bow dyed for the occasion and starched and ironed?
Oh, well, my new dancing. I had my dancing shoes lined up now for Friday night, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there will be, if I have to wear the mask now when I'm putting them on when I'm going into the nightclub or when I'm maybe getting a drink at the bar or likewise. So I think the clarity is the one that has been sought by the people, particularly in the live music sector and things like this now, you know. Like,
well, I mean, nightclubs, I haven't been in a nightclub for a very long time other than taking pictures, but they're very lively, vibrant, throbbing places for young people who really go out to enjoy themselves to the loud music, to have a drink or two or three, and indeed to get the shift. That's what nightlife and nightclubs are all about. And now that Neil Martin has taken a personal interest in it because he believes, and he probably knows like everybody else, that the COVID certification and the ID rules are not being fully adhered to. He believes that 1/3 of them are not.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you sort of sort that one out? I mean, how does he take a personal interest in it? Is he going to land at the Pulse and at the Kenny or one of those venues?
Teenage disco?
Yeah, the underage teenage disco on Friday night. Catherine Martin now is reassuring everybody that the anomalies, this has become the new buzzword in politics, the anomalies. Miriam Lord was taking the mickey out of it last night in her column in the Irish Times like nobody else can. But Catherine Martin now, she has reassured us that all the anomalies will be sorted out within the next 24 hours. But what we do know is that masks will be mandatory. That rule has not been is not been removed. The wider issue of having to wear masks and social distance is something that probably will continue into next year.
Yeah, it looks like
I mean, that's the reality of it. And when I say that it will continue into next year, can you imagine young people out socialising wearing masks?
See, that's the problem. How do you contain that, or how do you
Now,
manage that?
if you're dancing, you don't have to wear it. Or if you're eating or drinking, you can also remove it. Now, that is sound common sense, obviously, because you might choke on your next pint. I mean, some of the stuff.
What else is he at in a nightclub?
Some of the stuff that the government is coming up with is just a bit north of being pure madness.
Yeah.
You'd nearly think that this was just landed on them this week. In a way, they'll claim that it was, because this, as Leo Varadkar talks about, this double dose of the Delta variant. You know, nobody knows what that means. Is there a second dose of it on the way, or is this the second wave of it?
Was it here already? Yeah.
This is Varadkar speak, but I mean, there's going to be no antigen testing. Surprise, surprise. Now, I presume this applies to going out at night. There is this story that if you're deemed to be a close contact and you're fully vaccinated, then a certain number of people who have been close contacts, I think it's 3.4 people, will be sent out an antigen test in an envelope in the post. Then it's up to you to sort of use the test without breaking it and then returning it to Dublin. By that time, a whole week might have elapsed, and maybe the person who is deemed to be a close contact probably has left the country on holidays to Gibraltar or wherever they go. But this is the kind of crack that's going on, and it's a great time to be alive and being involved in journalism and watching the government under intense pressure from Mary Lou MacDonald 4 to 5 days a week, because she's revelling in this. Michael Martin hasn't any great support from Leo Varadkar, and probably Eamon Ryan is kind of enough easy going to go along with the flow. He's happy enough as long as there's no major new motorway starting next week or next year. But that is where we're at. It's not the kind of opening. There's never going to be a clean sweep of an opening. The country's closed down for far, far too long. I always would have felt that kind of the best thing would have been done as they did in the UK. That when the schools close for the summer, you're heading into a time of year where there's a lull, the heat and all of that. Diseases are much, much slower. Viruses are much slower to spread.
Yeah.
Plus, we'd have had the whole summer to come to terms with getting a bigger herd immunity. We didn't do that, but now when we're trying to open up, we're right into the middle of the autumn, into the winter. There's flus and viruses and people in hospital with chest conditions. It's absolutely the wrong time of the year, really, in one way, to be opening up fully. But you're opening up to a huge cohort of a younger generation of probably maybe 1.5 million people going to nightclubs.
Yeah.
And whilst the nightclubs have been closed for far too long, they still have been compensated, you know. But those nightclubs should have been opened at the beginning of the summer, and let us take our chance from that. The Delta variant is not going away. Today's numbers are way up over 2,000 again. And the 5-day rolling incidence is way up. The numbers in ICU is way up. And actually the numbers in hospital are way up. So everything is going in the
They
wrong
all seem to coincide
trajectory.
with these reopenings. That, you know, the numbers seem to
The
spike
numbers
at these
spike,
times.
yeah. Well, there's a claim there that they underestimated the numbers for Saturday and Sunday, and then they were added into yesterday's numbers.
Right.
That has been floated around there, and it may have more than a grain of truth in it. And the reality is, if people see that happening, whatever confidence they might have left in how the thing has been handled will dissipate. It will dissipate very quickly.
Yeah.
But I suppose, on the wider picture, as far as COVID is concerned, we're now into our 20th month of it. I mean, how long more? I mean, what's Christmas going to be like? You know, there isn't going to be a meaningful Christmas.
And you think that we're supposedly due to have another bank holiday in between this bank holiday and Christmas that we wouldn't normally have?
Well, that's another anomaly.
So there's another anomaly, but again, are we
That's-
chatting
I
about
think- I think-
groupings
I
coming
think-
together at that time? So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, are we corralling people together to these public holidays to?
But you see, after 19 to 20 months, that shouldn't be that relevant at this point. But I mean, it is relevant because it's been an open start, close, and all that kind of thing. Nightclubs, hospitality sector have been, like at the moment, I see that the Restaurateurs Association have a statement out there recently now that there are going to be no restrictions on numbers going into the nightclubs, from what we understand.
Yeah.
As
long as they have COVID cert.
The restaurant owners are now looking at a situation that they can have 100 people, provided there's 10 seated at 10 tables. So they're wondering now, this afternoon, can we have a full house as well as the nightclub down the road?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing but anomalies there. So we could get into more anomalies than we can
to
get
research
out of.
that all weekend now, John.
Right, we'll take a look at a story you've written about and this is a nice wee initiative by two brothers in Kilmacrenan.
Kind of getting away from that. It's actually the love of the outdoors, I suppose, which is a good thing to the anti-COVID things we're discussing. But this is a thing the two Kilmacrenan brothers, Luke and Dylan McConnell, two well-known lads from Kilmacrenan, who basically through their love of I think Luke is the first one to have converted his own camper van, and he got this ready for the highways and byways of touring around Ireland, and he lives in Scotland now, I think, where he studied as well. And between himself and Dylan, they ended up being very proud of this camper van and thinking that there's a lot of people out there who do similar things, but they're not really any kind of niches to make any kind of useful giftware or that type of thing for them. So two boys set up their own company, an online company.
Yeah, I was just reading it there.
And they call it the Adventure. So the headline reads, Kilmac Brothers put the van into adventure. So it's their love of out touring about, and this van life movement is a big thing that seems to have
it's growing. It's growing massively.
You can see, yourself, you can just see the way that the staycationers and all that, people have got more and more on board with this. It's a great way to see the place, tour around the place,
and it's cheap.
Cheap buy. So
but the novelties that they've introduced in there will sell very, very well. They sell like hotcakes.
They are. I mean, it's all personalised stuff, sort of specific to the owners and their vans and all like that there. So they call it the Adventure, and it's a lovely idea. They've set up their company. They're both based over in Scotland now, and they're giving it a good dig over there, where they're working away at full-time jobs and both working part-time on the Adventure, with the view to kind of maybe it becoming a full-time thing in the future. So they're hats off to them. It's a great wee startup idea. There's nothing else like it that I've ever seen anyway. So
it's excellent. Yeah, like it's nice to see those kind of initiatives.
It's creative and it's unique.
Yeah, it is very creative.
So it looks good. So that's now, a nice full page feature in the Tribune this week on that.
We shall look at Rosie Connolly from Bura and Ramelton. She's marked the 40th anniversary of her diagnosis with diabetes there recently, and she raised over €9,000, which is a marvellous amount of money. And there's nice picture there of Rosie presenting the cheque. It's for €9,085.69, and that goes to Diabetes Ireland, and Danny McDade was the man that accepted it last Saturday. And we also have a picture, her mother Teresa, Nuala Hagan, and sisters Mary Bond and Teresa McDade of Croghan. That is that story. Nice, a nice positive picture there.
She's done something very well.
Then we're going to look. We have a new bar opening in Rathmullen. It's not any old bar. It's Molly's Bar. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Molly's Bar and Bistro in Rathmullen. It's opening this Friday night. It's a new pub. It's under the ownership of Councillor John O'Donnell, well-known Kilmacrenan man. He's taken over the bar, formerly known as Big Paddy's. Very well located and well-known pub in the middle, I suppose, at the heart of Rathmullen, really. And he has big plans for that now, I suppose, starting out now. That's the second bar that he has done. He's got his own O'Donnell's Bar.
I used to attend political meetings not long before it was Big Paddy's or in the other bar. Back in the day with independent Fianna Fáil.
That was
way back in the 60s, 70s.
Was that a real hub for that?
Oh, big time. Big time. Politics was a very red hot issue back in Rathmullen in the day. And we got into bother one time. Fianna Fáil had taken an offer pasting from the Blaney's politically. And we wrote a nice colour piece. Fianna Fáil held their common AGM in the town, and we reported the fact that it could have been held in a phone box, I think Noel McGinley has never forgiven me for that to this very day, but you get over things like that.
You get over. Well, there could be the odd political debate in there now with Kerr.
John O'Donnell, I think he has said in the story that he's looking forward to moving into the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
And as I say, he also has the old Anglers Haven in Kilmacrennan, O'Donnell's bar with the Danny O, his great friend, the late Danny O'Donnell, named after him. The new bar in Rathmullen now is Molly's bar, and that's named after his recently born wee daughter Molly O'Donnell. So that's
and also Molly Barrett.
Yes.
Who was the original owner, or who was an owner prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But we leave that sit there and wish Councillor O'Donnell all the best with his new venture. And I also should have mentioned it in the last couple of weeks to wish Councillor Kieran Brogan and his brother Brian all the best in their new venture, having acquired the Lennon Lodge in Ramelton, which is up and running as well.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of progress and there's a bit of continuation going on there. But we're going to look beyond that, Eamon, to this story that Jerry Lane is leading Letterkenny University Hospital.
Yeah, that's I suppose came as a shock to plenty of people, that, because one of the best known faces, you could say, in and around the hospital would be Jerry Lane. Big profile, not just locally but nationally. He announced apparently to his colleagues in a communication there just in recent days that he intends to resign or to leave his post, and he will effectively be gone from the new year. So I think that was greeted with a lot of shock and sadness, but also quite a few tributes paid to him as well, because I spoke. Nice
one there from the mayor of Letterkenny, Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh.
Because Jimmy was the mayor when they had a civic reception for him a number of years ago, and in fact, Jimmy told me the story that Jerry Lane is such a humble man and focused on his work that he really didn't even want to accept that on behalf of himself. So he only went along to accept it on behalf of all the team in the emergency department, which will give you an insight into his type of character. So yeah, that's there'll be I suppose the thing will be on to get him, while it's a sad departure, to get that replaced as soon as possible, John, because we know these replacements aren't easy found at times.
His shoes are going to be very, very hard to fill, given the expertise and the professionalism, and indeed the fact that he was there for 21 years is a long, long time in reality, and he gave it everything he had and a lot more. So we wish him well in whatever he chooses to do in the future for himself and his family. We're also noting the fact that a young lad called Leon Evans, probably not 10 years of age yet, he organised a tractor run in Dunfanny for the Christmas lights. And guess what? He raised over €900. So well done, Leon.
That's fantastic.
We're also taking a quick look at a couple of other issues. The death of Jerry Robinson came as a big surprise to everyone. Absolute huge surprise, given that none of us had any idea that there was anything wrong there.
Yeah, Jerry, I think, was quite a private individual in many, even though he's quite a public figure in many ways.
He was, but he was extremely private.
Aye, and the news that came out that he had passed was greeted with a huge amount of sadness. I can't think of there wasn't a person that I spoke to that didn't have a good word for him. Everybody thought he was a great and a very humble man for what he achieved and all.
Yeah.
Born in Dunfanny, as we know. He was only in his early 70s, which I suppose is even all the more sad, particularly when he had gone on to do such great things within the county after he had left this huge career in England behind, between
television and business, and all of that kind of thing.
Business and hotel groups and all of that. A major player, coming from very humble roots, and I suppose in many ways you could say, despite his wealth, he came back to humble roots.
He was the ninth of a family of 10.
I know. I used to fish with his brother Pat many years in the cricket. He was another gentleman too.
Amazing that,
But I think the legacy, I suppose, that he's left here in Donegal has been the renovation and opening to the public of Oakfield Park, and that will live long well beyond his time.
Yeah.
That's a venue for a lot of events, charity events, you name it, and it's also provides a lot of employment and all of that too.
Oakfield Park will be a memory to his
so it'll live on.
His generosity and to the spirit that he brought to the whole project,
Apparently his instructions even last week, as his health was failing, was that make sure that nothing gets cancelled in the coming weeks if in the event something did happen to him. So I believe all the Halloween things that are planned for the kids and all that work is still going to go ahead. So I hope
may he rest in peace.
He'll be sadly missed.
We'll go back to the Micah crisis. This is a different type of story. Micah, a nightmare for Tirconaill family. Just 17 years after building their new home, Sean and Louise Gibbons near Tirconaill are facing the looming reality that they will have to move out of their house for a lengthy period due to Micah. This is a sort of a never increasing crisis in Donegal, but this crisis is compounded by the fact that there's a huge challenge here, is that they're going to have to try and find alternative accommodation that is suitable for their 13-year-old daughter Emma, who has intellectual, motor and physical disabilities. And the house is now specifically enhanced to add to her quality of life.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get that kind of house without going to a lot of expense.
Yeah.
And that is a huge issue that family are going to have to deal with. But we wish them well in the future. And on that basis, we'll just leave it for this week because we have run somewhat over time. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next Thursday, or Wednesday evening rather.